what about the story they're giving us then to justify all this? We are supposed to believe that carbon dioxide, CO2, is the cause of warming the planet. The fact that the planet has warmed and cooled throughout its history and has been a hell of a lot warmer than it is now, that's irrelevant. You've got to shut up about that. You've just got to believe the very simple fact. Carbon dioxide warms the planet and threatens all life. It's bollocks, but believe it, repeat it, and don't question it. Well, here's another way of looking at that. When you see the relationship between rising carbon dioxide through the history of the planet and temperature, they don't correlate. Temperature leads the rise in carbon dioxide, not the other way round. How can that be, Dave? I'll tell you. Because the biggest reservoir of carbon dioxide on the planet is in the oceans. And when the oceans warm, they release carbon dioxide. That's why temperature leads carbon dioxide, not the other way round. And the lag time between the warming and the carbon dioxide being unleashed is about 800 years. They don't tell me that on the BBC. Isn't that strange? What about David Attenborough? Have you ever mentioned that? Of course, it's ridiculous. But all these lazy and lying people in the media just repeat, here we go again, what they're told to believe about me. And that brings us to the subject today, which is climate change. There's, they call it COP27 going on in Egypt. Yawn. And what is being referred to, both sides of the Atlantic, as the migrant crisis. And those dots connect. But to see how, we have to go back to my old phrase, know the outcome and you'll see the journey. Know where we're being taken and you'll see the relevance of daily events, not least in these two subjects I'm talking about today. So this is the planned outcome. It's what I call the Hunger Games society, in which you have a structure of hierarchical control where you have a tiny few at the top of the pyramid and virtually the rest of the human population at the bottom that are in complete dependency for the basics of human survival on that tiny few. And in between the population and this, quote, elite is planned to be, and we saw signs of it in lockdown period, a military police state, a fusion of the two ultimately, to impose the will of the few on the rest and to stop the rest rebelling against the few. Now, how do you bring that about, that dependency? Well, you have to do it by destroying the ability of the target population to have an independent income, independent of the few, the elite as they like to call themselves, cesspit as I call them. And so what was lockdown about? It was about destroying the ability of large numbers of people in small businesses, medium businesses, even big businesses not connected to what I call the global code, and to stop the employment of people with those independent businesses. In other words, creating dependency by destroying independent income. And then you come to what's happening with the explosion of the price and cost of energy. Everything that is produced and transported has to use energy to do so. And thus, if you can artificially increase the price of energy, you are increasing the price of everything. And thus, more and more businesses now around the world are going out of business because they can't meet the energy costs that are being artificially inflated by what? The climate change hoax and the manufactured conflict in Ukraine, which is actually a proxy war between the West and Russia via Ukraine. And what we're told is, well, about this climate change nonsense, climate change as in caused by human activity, we're told that, oh yeah, we've got to get rid of fossil fuels because they're nasty and horrible. And what we got to do is we got to use renewables like solar and wind and all that stuff. Well, I mean, there's plenty of wind coming out of the climate change bloody movement to power the globe. But in terms of meeting the energy demands to continue society as it is, no way in the frickin' world is wind and solar and this other group of what they call renewables, no way is that going to meet the same demand. So what's going on? Why are they targeting fossil fuels? Because they are the very foundation of the industrial world that has been the foundation itself of human society as we know it today. So, if you are this global cult and its expressions like the World Economic Forum of Klaus Schwab, then if you want a great reset, in other words, a transformation of human society into the Hunger Games society I'm describing, then you have to target fossil fuels, because in doing so, you dismantle the very basis of the society you wish to destroy. Why do they want to destroy it? So they can put another one, a complete, centrally, globally controlled society in its place. And it's not just about the energy side of this climate change hoax. It's about the control side. Control in the sense of, and it's already happening, where you have carbon limits. You can only buy whatever you want to buy to the point of a carbon limit, and then after that you're not able to. And so it's not just about transforming the nature of human society, which is what it is. It's all about also mass control of the fine detail of people's lives. It's about destroying their ability to move and travel. Everything becomes possible in terms of control once you create dependency on things like energy in terms of its supply and cost, and food, which is also being targeted by this same cabal. Everything in terms of control becomes possible. So, what about the story they're giving us then to justify all this? We are supposed to believe that carbon dioxide, CO2, is the cause of warming the planet. the fact that the planet has warmed and cooled throughout its history and has been a hell of a lot warmer than it is now, that's irrelevant. You've got to shut up about that. You've just got to believe the very simple fact. Carbon dioxide warms the planet and threatens all life. It's bollocks, but believe it, repeat it, and don't question it. Well, here's another way of looking at that. When you see the relationship between rising carbon dioxide through the history of the planet and temperature, they don't correlate. Temperature leads the rising carbon dioxide, not the other way round. How can that be, Dave? I'll tell you. Because the biggest reservoir of carbon dioxide on the planet is in the oceans. And when the oceans warm, they release carbon dioxide. That's why temperature leads carbon dioxide, not the other way round. And the lag time between the warming and the carbon dioxide being unleashed is about 800 years. They don't tell me that on the BBC. Isn't that strange? What about David Attenborough? Have you ever mentioned that? So here's Patrick Moore, a co-founder of Greenpeace, who saw eventually that Greenpeace was, and like the Green movement in general, had ceased to be an environmental organization and now was pursuing a political agenda. So here's Patrick Moore with his presentation of how the relationship between temperature and carbon dioxide is very different to what we're being told.
Let's first look at the long-term history of the Earth's temperature and CO2 in the Earth's atmosphere. I'm going to focus on the past 540 million years since modern life forms evolved. The purple line shows the CO2, and the blue line is the global temperature. So if CO2 makes the global temperature warmer, these lines should be dipping and spiking in unison with each other. But check out the Jurassic period, 150 million years ago. The temperature plummets while the CO2, the purple line, goes up. And then again, 50 million years ago during the Eocene thermal maximum, temperature was at its highest in the past 500 million years, but CO2 had been on a downward track for 100 million years. So it is not possible to demonstrate a cause and effect relationship between CO2 and temperature over the long-term history.
And Patrick Moore also points out a very interesting fact. You know, they keep going on, scientists keep repeating, here we go. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, it's the United Nations operation. Big red flags immediately, given that. And they say, oh, well, they've investigated what's causing climate change, and they say it's carbon dioxide, human activity. No. That is not the mandate of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It's not to find out why the climate changes. It's to confirm that the changes are caused not by natural elements, which they are, but by carbon dioxide. This is the mandate, to focus upon, the IPCC, quote, a change of climate which is attributed directly or indirectly to human activity that alters the composition of the global atmosphere. Their brief is to investigate human impacts on the climate as they claim them to be, and not look at other possibilities. So it's rigged. The whole system's rigged. And everything is an inversion. We're told that carbon dioxide is a pollutant. It's the gas of bloody life. Without it, we wouldn't be here. The whole of the natural world depends upon it. Therefore, our food supply depends upon carbon dioxide, which the natural world and the plant world sucks out of the atmosphere. It's the natural plant world's version of oxygen, if you like. We have this wonderful symbiotic relationship where we breathe in oxygen and we breathe out carbon dioxide, and the natural world takes in carbon dioxide. So they want to break that cycle. Of course they do, because it's an anti-human agenda. They want to break the cycle which allows the natural world to exist. So what they do to demonize CO2 is they show you pictures like this. Now, carbon dioxide is an invisible gas. Well, unless you're Greta Thunberg, you think claims she can see it. But it's an invisible gas, invisible to the human eye. And yet these are the pictures they show you of smoke and pollution pouring out of bloody chimneys. And they relate that in the perception of the population with carbon dioxide. Oh, it's a pollutant. And it's all a mind game. Growers that use greenhouses, for instance, they put more carbon dioxide into the greenhouse because it massively increases the growth of plants, the growth of food. And they do that because it's the gas of life, not because it's a pollutant that threatens all life on Earth. Here's a report.
Arga is driving growth in the agricultural sector by adding carbon dioxide to increase production capacity and guarantee large, attractive flowers and vegetables such as cucumbers, tomatoes and lettuce. Using carbon dioxide fertilization increases yield by up to 30%. Ambient air has a carbon dioxide concentration of 400 ppm. This is sufficient for growing tomatoes and cucumbers, but as the plants, often grown in greenhouses, start to consume the carbon dioxide in the air at first sunlight, if the concentration of carbon dioxide is allowed to fall, growth is slowed down or halted.
CO2 in greenhouses is very important because we get a better crop, a higher yield and better quality of the tomatoes.
Additional carbon dioxide needs to be added to increase efficiency and to have the optimal yield.
This is why, since the Industrial Revolution, the Earth has got greener because of the extra carbon dioxide being absorbed by the natural world. And here's Patrick Moore again talking about the demonization of CO2 and why the opposite should be the case.
CO2 is the currency of life. It is the most important building block for all life on Earth. All life, including our own, is carbon-based. We shouldn't be demonizing CO2 as a pollutant. We should celebrate the carbon cycle, which is the cycle of life. CO2 is essential and must be at a certain level in the atmosphere for the survival of plants, which are the primary food for all the other species alive today. In fact, human emissions from the use of fossil fuels are promoting growth of plants around the world. Scientists in Australia, Germany, and North America confirm this. Only half of the CO2 we are emitting from fossil fuels is showing up in the atmosphere. The rest, according to the best science, is going to a global increase in trees, plants, and crops. I want to take you through this picture of how carbon is moving around. Today, at 400 parts per million carbon dioxide, there are 850 billion tons of carbon in the atmosphere. For comparison, there were 15,000 billion tons of carbon in the atmosphere when modern life forms evolved, nearly 18 times the present level. Plants and soils combined have more than 2,000 billion tons of carbon, more than twice the atmosphere. The oceans contain 38,000 billion tons of carbon, more than 45 times what the atmosphere holds. Is an increase in carbon emissions all going into the atmosphere? Well, no. It's spread throughout the atmosphere, plants, animals, soils, and the oceans. So can we all agree that carbon is not the enemy? Can we agree that it's actually the reason we are alive?
Can we agree? No.
Security.
What is worth more, art or life?
The posh voices of the wokers repeating what the establishment they claim to oppose is telling them to believe. What comes out of the woke activists is simply the script of the World Economic Forum and the global cult in general. And so what they're doing is calling on governments and desecrating art and what have you, stopping people getting to work, getting to funerals, as one couldn't get to his father's funeral, one guy this week, because Just Stop Oil was blocking the road. And who's doing it? This Just Stop Oil Extinction Rebellion mob. People who are just repeating what they've been told to believe. And one of the things they did this week in Britain was climb gantries on motorways and shut the motorway. And here's one of them telling us why.
Oil and gas is killing us. It's killing us all. It's killing people around the world now, making people homeless, burning their homes, creating situations where there is repeated crop failure over many years. And it's moving closer to us here. We had 40-degree temperatures this summer, causing thousands of additional deaths.
I wonder if that lady has ever pondered on the fact that it is not warmth that is the biggest killer of human beings. It is cold. And whether she's gone on, like the other two prats in the clip in the art gallery, to ponder on the fact that the policies they are demanding, just stop oil. All right, so how do you think that's going to work out? Oh, just stop fossil fuels. All right, how's that going to work out? In vast, vast numbers of dead people from the cold and from lack of food, which is an ongoing consequence of the same thing. Because of these pillocks, these repeaters of the establishment they claim to oppose, people are going to die this winter across the world because they can't afford to keep warm. And it's, oh God, it's so pathetic to watch. Oh, we're a establishment. So what have you got to say? Well, what the establishment says we should say. They're calling for all these things which this cult actually wants to happen. Read the books of Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates. And this is the relationship between the cult, the system, authority, and the woker climate activists. And the latter, by the way, you'll probably guess, is the instrument, not the player. It is pathetic to behold. Yeah, it's not climate change, we're all gonna die. I'm a radical. Mr. System, thank you, sir. So all this climate change stuff, it's not about the climate. It's not about saving the world. It's about transforming the world of human society into a centralized fascist dictatorship in which every element of human life will be dictated by a tiny elite.
First of all, much love, much respect for all the people who watch to this point, especially who listen for me. Much love. It's really appreciated. But no. This whole climate change thing. I remember while listening to this video, I remember primary school. Last March I was 31 people. 31. So when I was going to school, just doing sciences and of that awareness and understanding, and yeah. I could remember clearly the teacher said, weather can change, but the climate cannot change. That was something it just stuck with me, and I always remember that. I don't know why, but probably I know why now. But it just always remember that. Many of you know when I got school, when I went to school, certain things the teacher tell you, it's like it just stuck in your memory, stuck in your mind forever. Only an adult to remember when a teacher said that to you. Or one of those moments. And when I hear this climate change thing, I said, that's why they named climate change, because they had to have that and end. Because they said at first, they presented this science, presented these books for us to so-called learn, quote-unquote learn. Climate cannot change, weather change. Hey. So clearly, something is changing here. So, we see what's going on, people. This CO2, the gas of life, and this is evil. This is the nature terrorists, not these guys. Not what these guys are doing. Are weather modification devices and all the above. What? The birth of life? I'll leave it right here, people, because it's much to unpack from David. So I'll keep it short. Part 2 is coming. Part 2, I have to split it because, as you know, we are hit with this hurricane and no internet, no Wi-Fi. It's the service come back a day ago, fully working now. So I have to cut the video to the lowest quality to save it and upload it in a timely fashion. So yeah, I have to split this up. It's a 50-minute talk, and wow, it's gonna take a lot of space. And hey, battery, 70 battery, and I have to keep it till the morning until those power banks are full by someone who will watch it later. That's the life right now, people. That's the life. So, and I want to say one last thing. This whole conspiracy of the hurricane and Melissa thing. Hey, all I can say is, where Melissa hit terribly, that's where I was posting from. and I returned to my home where it was initially scheduled to hit. I'm not gonna give away the location, but hey, who knows? It's just whoa. I just have to give thanks, people. We know it as hard as certain place, people, and it's heart-wrenching and heartbreak. Lot of unalive people, and the figures will go up, people. A lot of communities still unreachable. So you know what that means. No food. It's a humanitarian crisis. It's a crisis, people. It's a crisis. Tears fell just thinking about it and talking and just thinking about people is just tragedy, heartfelt. Can't explain, can't start comprehend or feel what them people that feel right now. People is just sad people. Let's let more cry right now. Let's let more cry, people. That's the only expression. The only thing we can do. What we can do, people. Now these so-called artists in Jamaica, dancehall artists show off the money millionaire lifestyle. What are they? Where are you guys with the 20, 30 entourage? Every show they go on stage show. Why wouldn't I go down a center right now with 20, 30 man? You know much help that all of these big artists with them big entourage, like, I don't know if them do it, but I'm not do it. Please, cause we need every help we can get, people. It's a sad state. I didn't want to achieve with the modification thing, but I had to bring some form of clarity to people, like-minded people. Cause we know what's what and what's going on and and the capabilities of these evil, power-hungry, so-called quote-unquote rulers of this world. So I leave it there before I cry. And this up, people. So I leave it here. Whoa, 6 minutes. Whoa, I didn't plan to go so much, but hey, love, people, strength, power. We keep on fighting, keep on pushing, no matter what.